Hi everyone, I'm Michelle, and this year I was one of UC San Diego's sustainability ambassadors. And for my ESYS senior project, I decided to create a lecture series in an effort to fill an awareness gap that our community here at UC San Diego may be facing when it comes to knowing about the Carbon Neutrality Initiative, or CNI, and UC San Diego's goals, efforts, and achievements toward a cleaner and more sustainable future. Okay, so we'll quickly go over what being on the ambassador team entails, what CNI is, and UC San Diego's part in it. And from there, we'll dive into the methods, results, discussion, and conclusions of my project. Okay, so UC San Diego's sustainability ambassador position is 1 year long with training during the fall quarter and education and engagement with the rest of the community for the rest of the duration of the internship. And our mission is to educate and engage students through peer education and to raise awareness on our campus's efforts to reach carbon neutrality, as well as to encourage students to implement sustainable living methods. And over on the right is the homepage of our website, so you can go check that out if you want. And let's meet the team. Okay, so I think I might be in the way. Okay, but we have 4 ambassadors. We have Taylor, Abigail, Marissa, and me. And then we also have Bella here, who is actually our CNI Student Engagement Fellow. And she trained us and helped lead the way for us this entire year. And she's also my supervisor for this project. Okay, so now we're just gonna quickly move on to our involvement with CNI. So the UC Carbon Neutrality Initiative is basically the UC campuses pledging to reach carbon neutrality by 2025. And in our campus's effort to commit to this initiative, UC San Diego has focus areas where our campus can improve in sustainability and thus help us become more carbon neutral. And so the Sustainability Ambassador's position was created to help promote awareness of CNI and to engage our community on climate change, carbon neutrality, and sustainability. And while our general work consisted of working on our website and engaging with our fellow Tritons on social media, I created a lecture series to solve the knowledge gap that exists in our community about these different topics and focus areas. And I wanted to engage our fellow Tritons about UC San Diego's efforts in achieving carbon neutrality. Okay, so let's dive into the methods of creating the lecture series. So there were 4 parts to it. There was making the presentation slides, recording the videos, creating the feedback surveys, and posting promotional graphics of the series on Instagram, or yeah, on our social media. So for making the presentation slides, I used Canva for their aesthetic elements. And I also referred to our training sessions from fall quarter and our many resources for putting accurate information on these slides. And to record the videos, I just recorded on Zoom, and I showed interaction with viewers by using my cursor to kind of keep their attention on the screen and to also like use hand gestures or connect with them using personal stories or experiences. And in creating the feedback surveys, I used Google Forms to create these short answer surveys. And I wanted to study the effectiveness of the slides and my presentation abilities. And in making these Instagram posts, I used Canva for consistency with the posts and the slides. And the purpose of these posts were to notify our viewers of what the topic is for that week and when the video will be available. Okay, and here is a screenshot of our lecture series page. And this is hosted on our website, and it's still up, so you can check that out if you want to. But we're just going to move on to the results. So we garnered a total of 24 responses, and here are just like a couple of the responses to give y'all like a general idea of the opinions on the slides and my presentation of them. So generally, it seems like if we kind of get like a gauge of the audience first, 3 of them out of the 8 respondents in this first lecture, they were alarmed with climate change, and 5 of them were just concerned. And 6 of them were already aware of CNI, while 2 didn't know what it was. And in lecture 2, out of these 5 respondents, all of them agreed that personal actions can help mitigate climate change. And so from these type of answers, we can kind of like get the feel of where our audience is at. So, so that was very useful to know. And I'll get into a discussion of that later on. But there were some critiques that I needed to work on, and this really helped kind of gauge what people wanted to see when they were learning. So for example, in lecture 1, I had a bunch of different critiques. So like providing definitions or adding more imagery, subtitles, and personal examples, and watching the speed of my speech. And as we can see throughout like the progression of the lecture series, I kind of get less critiques. So that seems to be a good sign, but continuing on, there are some couple of other critiques like needing animation or like transitions. providing subtitles or making it easier to find, and that sort of type of critiques. And in terms of things that were effective or that I seem to be doing really well in, was providing like clear graphics and being simple and informative, but also like using really good hand gestures or showing excitement or providing personal commentary and stories. I definitely started to include subtitles near the end, so that really, really helped and was given a mention about. And it was also reasonably paced, as well as having thorough explanations on there and me giving great additional information. And it was really good to also see the consistency of the visual aspect of the slides. So these words were taken like directly from the feedback surveys, but there were succinct slides. They were easy to read, organized, simple and informative. It was also pleasing to see, detailed and not too crowded. It was vibrant and appealing, easy to understand. So it's really good to see that consistency there. And generally, it just seems like I was able to improve upon delivering the lectures in a way that helped better engage our community, and our respondents stayed pretty interested for like the duration of the series. And there were some points to definitely still learn and improve upon, like my transitions and animations and the text and imagery placements. But all of the respondents in our final feedback survey did mention that they would love to see another series in the near future. But now we're going to discuss these results even further. And so what I gathered from these questions was that the audience already had an interest in sustainability and they wanted to learn more. And I also learned that besides these focus areas, people wanted to know more about certain concepts like carbon offsets, for example, or they wanted to learn more about UC San Diego's like different programs or opportunities and student positions. And I also believe that the feedback surveys was a short answer, the short answer aspect of it was a really good measurement of seeing the accurate opinions on the effectiveness of the lecture series, and it allowed our respondents to give honest critiques of what can be improved to enhance their education experience. And with that, there just seemed to be a positive reaction to the series, so I hope future ambassadors can continue working towards better educating our community. And some possible future directions to take would be to continue garnering the attention of the more general Triton population, our community, so not just those that were already involved in sustainability. And to also utilize the various features of social media and perhaps expand to other platforms for further outreach, and to also collaborate with other organizations and to host more events, to promote UC San Diego opportunities, perhaps by like tabling on Library Walk now that in-person learning is likely to be happening, and to also dive deeper into new and different topics, both UCSD and non-UCSD related. So for example, like talking more about like obscure UCSD volunteer positions that people might not know about, or to even go off of that and just talk about corporate accountability or the fast fashion industry. And with that, we reached the conclusions of my lecture series project. And so I created this lecture series to fill an awareness gap or knowledge gap of UC San Diego's sustainability goals, efforts, and achievements in region carbon neutrality. And I was also able to engage with my audience with visually pleasing slides and educational information on our campus's focus areas in an effort to reach net zero emissions. And I was also able to engage with them by sharing personal stories or experiences. And I was also able to further publicize UC San Diego's student and volunteer positions. And with my feedback surveys, I received very, very valuable input on the effectiveness of the lecture series and what still needs to be improved upon in my effort to educate and engage with my community. Okay, and with that, I want to thank Bella, Taylor, Abigail, and Marissa for being such an awesome and supportive team this year. I also want to thank Jen Bowser and Michelle Perez over at Sustainability for helping me with the accuracies of my presentation and kind of like fact checking everything for me. And I would also like to thank Bella again, my supervisor, for helping me on this journey of creating a lecture series. And I want to give a shout out to my faculty mentor, Professor Eric Allen, for his support and his cheer. And I'd like to thank all of the respondents who took their time to watch the lecture series and to respond to our feedback surveys. And I want to thank Jane for her guidance in instructing the ESYS 187 series and the ESYS department for the opportunity to work on a project like this in my final year here. And lastly, I want to thank you for watching and learning more about my ESYS senior project. And I hope you all have a great future ahead. Thank you, and I appreciate all the efforts put into giving and receiving my lecture series. Thank you again.